What's up everybody, Weston here with The Hidden Gibbon, back with another Daily Deck Tech video, and we have ourselves another viewer request. We have Alela Cunning Conqueror. So, I had a few stipulations for this one given to me. Normally folks are just like, hey, can you do this commander? And they don't give me too much beyond like who the commander is. But for this one, the budget had to be within $1,800, and as you can see, we brought it in at about $1,400. Then it had to be bracket 4, which we are coming in with 10 game changers, so you best believe this is bracket 4. And then there could be no Thoracle or Demonic Consultation, no Tainted Pact, no Chrome Mox, and no Mox Diamond. Those were the stipulations there. Now for cards that absolutely had to be in, before we get to the commander, I will list them off here. These are our must-includes that we were required to have. Katara, Waterbending Master, Mistbind Click, Narset, Parter of Veils, Notion Thief, Nowhere to Run, Voracious Tome Skimmer, Windfall, and Wrong Turn. Now, I will get more into these in detail here as we get into the deck tech proper, but I wanted to list those out there. If you want to see your commander made into a deck tech, drop it in the comments down below, and as you can see, you can give me a budget, a theme, commander, everything, you know, like lists of cards you do and don't want in there. I'll get it done for you, I promise. But who is Alela Cunning Conqueror? She's a 2/4 for 4 with flying, and whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, create a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying. And then whenever one or more fairies you control deal combat damage to a player, goad target creature that player controls. So I am always a huge fan of goad, so having Alela do that is pretty great. I had not heard of this commander before this viewer request. She's coming in at about $33, so pretty expensive for a commander these days. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to take advantage of Flash and things like that, and then we're also going to have some fairies in there for a little bit of synergy that way. But this is going to be a control deck through and through. Now, let's get into it. So, for these must-includes, now I will go through them in detail. We have Katara, Waterbending Master, which is a 1/3 for 2 from the Jumpstart portion of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you get an experience counter. Now remember, there's no real way to interact with experience counters unless you have something that makes it so players can't get counters. And then whenever Katara attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have. If you do, discard a card. I really like this card. I made a couple deck techs about it before, and I have it in my Tian La deck as well. We have Mistbind Click, which has flash, flying, and champion a fairy, which means when it comes into play, sacrifice it unless you remove another fairy you control from the game. When this leaves play, that card returns to play. So, you know, you can poof out a fairy token. And then when a fairy is championed with Mistbind Click, tap all lands target player controls. So a little bit of control there. And it has flash. So you could, during somebody's upkeep, tap all their lands to prevent them from doing some big combo thing. We have Narset, Parter of Veils. Everybody loves this card, totally loves this card, which is each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn, locking our opponents off of drawing while we're trying to maximize our draws. And then, of course, you can -2 to look at the top 4 cards of your library, and you can reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them, and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This card is also extremely good, in my personal experience, at drawing fire for you. When you don't want something else to die, people really hate this card, and justifiably so, and they will come for it. Next, we have Notion Thief and Flash, and if an opponent would draw a card except for the first one they draw for each of their draw steps, instead, that player skips that draw and you draw a card. Good way of thieving them there. We have Nowhere to Run, which is, you know, Flash or with Nowhere to Run enters. Target creature and opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn. And then creatures your opponent's control can be the target of spells and abilities as though they didn't have hexproof. Ward abilities of those creatures don't trigger either. This is actually really good to get rid of protection, and just an all-around good card. I've started running this, and actually in a couple of my decks that I need to update on Moxfield. But when you have like 70 decks, it's hard to keep up. But yes, having this, because we're going to have a lot of removal and things in there like that, and with things like Swiftfoot Boots being a core component in most commander decks, this is just great. Then we have Voracious Tome Skimmer, a 2/3 for 3, flying, and whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you can pay 1 life. If you do, draw a card. It's all about getting card advantage. We're going to have lots of removal and lots of counter magic and things like that, and that is like a net loss for your hand, so having ways to replenish your hand is pretty good. We have Windfall, which is each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. This obviously combos very well with Notion Thief and Narset to make it so you draw the cards and your opponents draw nothing. This, I will say this, will not win you any friends at your commander table from personal experience. I can tell you people get very upset. Then we have Wrong Turn. Target opponent gains control of target creature. This is pretty funny and a little bit of manipulation. You can gift things if you want, but I didn't go that route. I see Wrong Turn as being a really good card to kind of troll some of your opponents, right? You could say one of your opponents is really strong and one of your other opponents is really weak. You can kind of balance the tables out by giving the strong opponent's commander to the weaker opponent. Some sort of fun manipulation politicking like that. Then we have our artifacts, also known as untagged artifacts, because I'm too lazy to just type in artifacts for the tag. We have Arcane Signet, Dimir Signet, Talisman of Dominance, and Soul Ring as mana rocks. We do have Skull Clamp. Since we are going to be producing those little fairies, you know, and like I said, we have a lot of removal and things like that. We're going to want to draw cards, and Skull Clamp is still one of the most efficient ways to draw cards in all of Commander. It, of course, says equipped creature gets +1/-1, and when the equipped creature dies, you draw 2 cards and it equips for 1. We do have the One Ring in this deck. It's here to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. It's a legendary artifact for 4, indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. This is really good at saving a life here. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring, and then of course you tap it, put a burden counter on it, and then draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. You know, this had dropped down a little bit when it got banned in Modern, and it's back up there again. Then we have our creatures package today. We have Archmage of Echoes, which is a 4/4 for 5, flying and ward 2, and whenever you cast a fairy or wizard permanent spell, copy it. This is pretty good because we do have quite a few fairies still in the deck. It is a little bit higher cost for being bracket 4, but because we have lots of protection and we do have some fast mana with our mana rocks, we should be able to get this out there no problem. And having ward 2 does give it a fair amount of protection. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of people in higher brackets pay no heed to creatures because they're busy playing solitaire. It's actually one of the biggest flaws with a lot of high power decks is they rely on just doing their combo, and unless you're interrupting that with your creature, they're not going to pay a lot of attention to it. We have Bitterbloom Bearer, which is Bitter Blossom on a body. It's flash flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life, and you create a little fairy. We have Cunning Nightbounder, which is flash, and spells you control, spells with flash you cast cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. We do have ways to give things flash. We have Fairy Harbinger, flash flying, and when it comes into play, you may search your library for a fairy card, reveal it, shuffle your library, and put it on top, so you can tutor for one of your fairies. We have Glen Alendra. She has flying, she has persist, which means when she dies, if she didn't have a counter on her, she comes back with a neg1 on her, and then you can pay 1 blue and sacrifice her to counter target non-creature spell, so a counter spell on a body. We have Malleable Imposter, flash flying, and you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature an opponent controls, except it's a fairy shapeshifter in addition to its other types, and it has flying. Always steal your opponent's good stuff. Always. We have Mocking Sprite, flying, and instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. Makes things cheaper. Opposition Agent, of course, another one of those cards that is going to enrage your opponents. It has flash, and you control opponents while they're searching their library. So say somebody demonic tutors, play this. Heck, if you're low on lands and somebody fetches, use this. While the opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find, and you may play those cards from for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast the spells. Orcish Bowmasters, of course, is a 1/1 for 2 flash, and when Orcish Bowmasters enters the battlefield, and whenever an opponent draws a card except for their first one, each draw step, Orcish Bowmaster pings something for 1 damage. It can be any target, and then they amass Orcs 1. This card gets out of hand very fast, and also kills a lot of staples in the format, like, Esper Sentinel and things of that nature. We have Rankle, 3/3 for 4 flying haste, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you can choose any number. Each player discards a card, each player loses a life, draws a card, each player sacks a creature. We have Spell Stutter Sprite, flash flying, and when it enters the battlefield, counter target spell with converted mana cost X or less, where X is the number of fairies you control. We have a lot of mainline creature fairies, and we also have our fairy tokens that our commander is making, so this can get pretty big. We have Talion the Kindly Lord flying, and as Talion the Kindly Lord enters the battlefield, choose a number between 1 and 10. 3 and 4 I have found are usually the really good ones, but at bracket 4, 1 and 2 is also really strong. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with the mana value, power or toughness equal to those chosen numbers, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. We have Vendilion Click, flash flying, and when it enters the battlefield, look at the target player's hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. If you do, that player reveals the chosen card and puts it on the bottom of his or her library and draws a card. This is really strong if somebody has tutored up something that they need for like their win combo. Put it back at the bottom of their library and watch them be very mad at you. Again, we're not winning any friends with this deck. And then we have Wave Break Hippocamp, which is whenever you cast your first spell during an opponent's turn, you get to draw a card. For our untagged enchantments, we have Amphibian Downpour, one of my favorite cards of all time. Flash Storm and Enchantment Creature, it's an aura. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog with base power toughness 1/1. I have played this in Commander and gotten about 8 or 9 off at most, and I have also played this on Arena Brawl. It is a very strong card, especially at higher brackets where people are going to be slinging counter spells and things like that. If they have a really strong commander that might be able to get through using abilities, this is the card for you, because not only will they have to counter the original copy, but they'll have to copy or counter the storm copies as well. We have Bitter Blossom, which is at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose life and make a fairy. Dress down, flash, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Creatures lose all abilities, and at the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice a dress down. This is I have seen this get used to stop Thoracle, which is hilarious, might I add. We have Fairy Tauntings. Whenever you play a spell during an opponent's turn, you may have each opponent lose 1 life. Pretty simple, pings them. Leyline of Anticipation gives all of your stuff flash, essentially, and if it's in your opening hand, you can start with it in play. Then we have Reconnaissance Mission. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. You can also cycle this to draw a card. It is 4 mana, so a little bit more expensive. Now we have our instants. We have a boatload of instants. Counter Magic. Let's do that first. We have an Offer You Can't Refuse, which is, of course, counter its creator, or its controller gets 2 treasures. Arcane Denial. You get to draw a card. They get to draw 2 cards. It counters a spell. Counter spells in here. We have the free counters of Fierce Guardianship, Force of Negation, Force of Will. We also have Negate in here. And also Spell Stutter and Swan Song. Spell Stutter is counter target spell unless its controller pays 2 plus an additional 1 for each fairy you control. So a little bit of value there. For our other stuff, we have a whole bunch of draw. Since we're making all these little fairy tokens, sacrificing them to draw is really good. So we have Corrupted Conviction, which is sack, draw 2. Deadly Dispute, sack an artifact or creature, draw 2, create a treasure. I believe we have another one in here. Let me look. Nope, not in the instance category. But we do have Fairy Fencing, which is target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. That creature gets an additional -3/-3 until end of turn if you control a fairy as you cast this spell, which is pretty easy. We have Deadly Rollick, lets you exile a creature, free if you have your commander. Bell the Profane, kills a creature or planeswalker and can be a land. We have Frantic Search for a little bit of draw. We have Go for the Throat, kills a non-artifact creature. Infernal Grasp, destroy a creature, you lose 2 life. Mystical Tutor, you get to search for an instant or sorcery and put it on top of your library. It's a tutor. Opt for a little bit of draw and scry. Pongify for a tiny bit of blue removal in here. Withering Torment lets you kill an enchantment or a creature and you lose 2 life. And then we have Snap, return target creature to its owner's hand, untap 2 lands. For whatever reason, our sorceries were below land, so we'll do those next. We do have Damnation in here, destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. We have Feed the Swarm, which is a sorcery for 2. Destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls, you lose life equal to the permanent's value. And then Splinter's Technique, which is a new one. Sneak, so if we have a creature that's not blocked, which is pretty easy, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. For our lands, we are running a high budget list here. I did not put an Underground Sea in because that would have been blown the budget quite a bit. But we do have Ancient Tomb in here. We have Cabal Coffers in here. I am running 11 swamps. One common mistake people make when they run Cabal Coffers is they'll run like 4 swamps. Don't do that. Just run more basics. So we are running 9 islands and we are running 11 swamps. We are still running Urborg to make everything swamps. We have Urza Saga, which can get our Soul Ring and our Skull Clamp. We have 3 Tree City, which helps when we have Faeries. I did actually put Reliquary Tower in here. I find it to be more situational these days rather than a staple, but we are going to be drawing a lot of cards, and so Reliquary Tower can be useful here. Other than that, it's pretty much anything that taps for blue and or black. There's Secluded Glen, which lets you reveal a fairy from your hand to let it come into play untapped as well. But yeah, that is this deck. I think it looks pretty fun. I wish I had the budget to build this deck. But of course, you could always proxy it. I hope I did a good job on this viewer request. And once again, if you want to see your commander made into a deck tech, drop in the comments down below. As always, I'm West with the Hidden Gibbon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.